Hello. Today I'm going to ask if we can get some more information on the idea of dying before our death. So this relates to, kind of like the Enlightenment, becoming self-identified in a way which is completely accurate about who we truly are, not who we think we are. So I'm going to ask that we can get some expansion on that. So the question is, please expand on the idea of dying before our death. Right before I start, I'll just give you a warning that there is a neighbour at the moment that is using, sounds like a circular saw to cut metal pipes. So it can be quite noisy if he's still doing it. So if you do hear that, that's just what's going on. If I hear that, I'll pause, and when it's done, then I'll start. I will continue. Okay. Alright, so please expand on the idea of dying before our death. Greetings and thank you for the question. You would like us to expand on the idea of dying before your death. This is a simple concept, and contained within this simplicity is a very clarified truth about who you truly are and its relationship, this truth, with the physical experience that you are having now as the human being that you know yourself to be. Or shall we say that you erroneously perceive yourself to be. Because when you look in the mirror and you see the finite being, the mind, the body, the personality, the physical vehicle, with the inherent, organic, artificial intelligence, which is the mind, from which is derived the personality. This is the false you. It is not the true you. Because you are, in fact, the energetic that is real-time download streaming into the physical apparatus. You are the energy source which powers the apparatus, which gives it its life, in a sense. You are not the mind, the body, the personality, but instead you are the infinite energetic. You are an individuation of the love of the One. The immortal, invulnerable, infinite being is what you are. The being that existed before your birth into this life cycle, and the being that you shall return into awareness that you are at the end of this life cycle, is who you truly are. And you continue to be this being during the life cycle. However, what is different when compared to the time prior to this life and following this life is that during this life, you are in a state of forgetfulness. You have been born into the physical experience without remembering who you truly are, what your true essence is. And so you descend into the illusion that you are something other than what you truly are. And the obvious illusion is that you believe yourself to be this physical apparatus and the inherent, organic, artificial intelligence from which arises the mind. In the state of forgetfulness, this becomes the exclusive identity. However, over the period of your life, through the physical experience, the intention is that you increasingly remember who you truly are. You return to the realization that you are not the physical vehicle, but you are instead the infinite energetic that you were fully aware of prior to this birth, and that you'll be fully aware of again following the completion of this life cycle. Your realization, your awakening, your enlightenment is to return to a state of full wakefulness, that you are this infinite energetic while you are still in the physical experience. So, for this to occur, it necessitates a relinquishment of the identity in the physical vehicle, to no longer perceive self as the body and the mind and the personality, to realize that these are assets which you have manifested from the perspective of the true you, the higher self. You have manifested this physical vehicle, you have manifested this life, such that you can have this experience of being in a state of continuous realization that you are not these assets, but instead you are the higher self energetic, until eventually, as the awakened master, you are fully awakened and fully realized that you are the infinite, immortal, the invulnerable higher self, individuation of the love of the One, having a temporary physical experience in a collection of assets that are no more you than the clothes that you wear throughout the day. You are not your clothes, you are not your shoes, your hat, your shirt, your pants. And in a very similar way, from the most expanded perspective of who you are not the body, you are not the mind, nor the personality. And so, this diminishment of identity in the physical assets, in a sense, is a death of this false identity. And this is why the concept of dying before your death is relevant when you become aware of your purpose. Because your purpose is to know thyself. And thyself, the true self, is not the apparatus, is not the physical vehicle, but is instead this higher self energetic. Prior to existence, the one existed as a concept only. Because when there is only one, there is no opportunity for experience. There is no differentiation. There is no opportunity for comparison, for one thing to not be another thing, so that these two things can be aware of each other and therefore have an experience of itself in the very rudimentary way of I am not that. Therefore, there is some experience of self. And as this splintering, this increase in the illusion that there is more than one, is expanded to infinitum, now there is so much differentiation, there is so much opportunity for comparison, that there is the opportunity for rich experience of the self. And the one, yearning to know itself experientially, because it was not satisfied with knowing itself only conceptually, it created the illusion of more than one. And so now its purpose is to know itself through experience, to know thyself. And as you are an individuation of the one, because there is still only one, what has changed is the illusion of more than one. So you are the one, experiencing itself through the unique perspective which is you. And so the purpose of the one, which is to know thyself, is your purpose, because you are the one. So, the process of knowing thyself is a death of the belief in the illusion. It is a return to the realization that you are not the illusion, but you are, in fact, the one. This transition from where you are to the realization that you are the one will occur across time and dimensions, culminating in a very distant future time. Because for you to be fully appreciative that you are the one, then you must experience all aspects of self. And all aspects of self necessitates that you transition through, with consciousness, the focus of your consciousness transitions through all of the dimensional states which are available. And as you transition through each dimensional state, it is an actual expansion into yourself. It is expansion into more of the infinite potential which you are. And the expansion into the third dimension is almost at completion. The potential of the 3D is close to being fully utilized. And so for you to further expand into the realization that you are the one, then you need more access to the one, to the infinity which you are. So you can expand more into yourself. So there will be a transition into a higher dimensional realm. And when this transition has occurred, there will be in front of you a new expanse of the infinite potential which you are, yet have not realized. And this shall continue across all of the dimensions until eventually all that will be left for you to realize is that you are not the individual, the self, but you are in fact the one. And this will be the completion, the return to the realization that you are the one. The one shall be, in that moment, fully realized of itself through the unique perspective which is you. You and the one shall be realized as the same being. So in this lifetime you live now, your transition, pertinent, calibrated to the state of existence you find yourself in now, is to become more realized as the one by first becoming realized as the higher self and relinquishing the identity in the physical vehicle. This is achieved through an increasing appreciation of your extra dimensionality. You do not exist in the physical realm. You are instead an avatar in the physical realm. What you see in the mirror, who you know yourself to be, is not you, but is instead an avatar which you embody and use so you can have the physical experience. And through the physical experience, go through the process of remembering who you are. And diminishing your identity in the avatar. Because in a very accurate way, it can be said that you are dreaming this life, and you are dreaming the physical vehicle, and you are not present in the physical experience in any other way other than this instantaneous download streaming into the apparatus. You are present in the physical realm as presence only. You have no physicality in the physical realm, because the physicality is not you. It is just a collection of assets. You exist here only as presence, which is to say, only as extra dimensionality. The three-dimensionality of the matrix you find yourself in does not describe you. Instead, it just facilitates the streaming of your presence into the physical experience. as the higher self, you are real-time downloading into the body. In a sense, the physical vehicle is channeling who you truly are. Because you are not the physical vehicle, and yet you are present in the space of the physical vehicle. You are not contained in the mind. The true you is not within this receptacle, but is instead more accurately described as being at an off-site location and real-time streaming into the physical vehicle, so that you are manifested as presence, as intangibility, intangible, because you are extra-dimensional. You are not three-dimensional. So to expand your understanding of self, to know thyself, is to become more aware of your extra dimensionality. If you perceive yourself as being the physical vehicle, then you perceive yourself as being a limited being that is confined by the possibilities of the three-dimensional matrix. However, you are much more than this, and it is erroneous to perceive yourself in this way. And self-perceiving in this way creates layers of erroneous self-belief, misconceptualization about who you are. And this misconceptualization exists as mind stuff, exists as layers of opaqueness which filter the true you as it downloads into the body to be spontaneously emanated as your presence. The belief that you are the finite being you see in the mirror, that you are the mind, that you are the personality, and that you are irreversibly integrated into the limitations of this concept, which infers that you have the vulnerabilities of the 3D being, of the limited mind, intellect, personality, then these vulnerabilities, which are falsely perceived as being inherent to who you are, give rise to compensatory belief systems, which exist as mechanisms to protect you from being subject to those things which you perceive yourself to be vulnerable to. And so when you download the self into the physical vehicle, instead of emanating spontaneously as unadulterated presence, a true representation of the higher self which you actually are, you reroute it to the mind for curation, because you falsely believe that you are the mind, and as such, that the mind should have the ultimate authority over deciding who you are, what you shall be. And so the infinite wisdom of the highest self is relegated into subjugation beneath the false elevation of the mind. And so the mind will take the feed which is flowing into you from the highest self, which you are. It channels into the body, but you identify that you are the mind, not realizing that the mind is only a tool. You are, in fact, the download stream. In the physical experience, the true you, as it can be experienced, is the download stream, is the spontaneous impulse. This is who you truly are. But because you are identified with the mind, then what occurs is, instead of spontaneously emanating into the moment as unadulterated higher self-presence, as the awakened master does, you divert the feed to the mind for curation. And so you go through a process of scrutinizing what it is as your impulse to say and do, denying the impulse its space, the download feed, from being spontaneously emanated, in preference for deciding if what you are about to say is worthy of saying, if it should be said in a different way, if you should move differently, look differently, if you should remain silent and stifle what it is you have the impulse to say, and so on. And so the mind, which is a limited intellect that does not have extra-dimensional awareness, it is a much smaller entity in terms of capacity compared to the infinite expansiveness of the highest self. And so, foolishly, this smaller device with much diminished capacities is elevated in reverence to the position of the ultimate arbiter, decider of what shall be emanated into the moment. And so this highest self download, instead of being spontaneously broadcast into the moment instantaneously, becomes twisted and distorted and diminished. And what is ultimately emanated into the moment as your presence is inauthentic and depleted of its inherent wisdom, which is reflective of the source, of the true you, of the higher self. And so, in your moment-to-moment, day-to-day, year-to-year existence, you are a diminished being. You are less impactful in your own life and in the life of others. You are stunted in your capacities to be wise, to be empathic, to express these extrasensory capacities which are available to all, such as the ability to perceive future events, to be in the presence of another and understand them to a profoundly deep level, even deeper than they perceive themselves, to bond with animals, to experience a deep, peaceful, nurturing, healing connection with nature, and so on, and so on, and so on. All of these capacities, which are your birthright, are diminished, locked away, stifled, underutilized, because you identify with the mind. You believe yourself to be the body, the mind, the personality, and the true you, the higher self, not being permitted to spontaneously emanate into the moment because you do not trust the infinite wisdom of the higher self. Then you live your life as a lesser being. This is not a condemnation. If you live this way, it does not mean that you are broken or that you are faulty. It is just the way of the earth human. And you can take solace in knowing that as the earth human transitions through time and through three-dimensionality, the appreciation of its extra-dimensionality is on the increase, and its identity with the physical vehicle is on the decrease. And so more and more and more, humanity is becoming more expressive of its higher self in the physical experience, and less anchored in the false, erroneous belief that it is the physical vehicle. So for you to live a life which is more aligned with the divine purpose, to know thyself, the purpose of the One is your purpose, because you are a perspective of the One. You are the One experiencing itself through the unique perspective which is you. It yearns to know itself, and so you yearn to know yourself. To accelerate this process, become more contemplative of your extra dimensionality. Become more contemplative of your infinity. Ponder frequently, who am I if I am not the physical vehicle? If I am not the mind, the body, the personality, then who am I? What else is there? This type of self-contemplation is a contemplation of your extra dimensionality, is going to be a contribution to the revelation, to the realization that you are something more. In your daily routine, if you are in the practice of meditation, which you should be, if you wish to transcend who you believe yourself to be now, as part of your meditation process, contemplate your infinity. Expand yourself in self-concept. As an exercise, imagine that you are the size of the room, then of the suburb, then of the city, then of the state, then of the country, then of the planet, then of the solar system, then of the galaxy, then of infinity. Expanding at an infinite rate. Imagine that there is a perimeter, and this perimeter is the One expanding at an infinite speed, And then just within this perimeter, touching as if another border is on the inside of this larger border as a concentric circle, also expanding at the infinite rate, are your parameters. You expanding infinitely into infinity at an infinite speed. And then when you come out of this visualization, do not return to the scale of the body, but instead emerge from this visualization while you are still the infinite being expanding infinitely at infinite speed. And this exercise will incrementally make you more in touch with your infinity, which is to say, with your extra dimensionality. It will be an incremental shift to more realization of your higher self. And subsequently, it will be a diminishment in your self-identity, which is erroneously embedded in the physical vehicle. As you move forward in the life that you are living, and as you live each moment of your day, trust more in the feed. Trust more that your impulse in the moment, the spontaneous intention that you feel, is calibrated to the moment in a way which is more perfect than you can achieve through the computation of the mind. Your higher self is an infinite being with infinite expansiveness, access to infinite wisdom. And when we say your higher self, we don't mean it to say that it is something else which is there, but you are you, and you have this higher self thing over here which somehow has something to do with you and you can sort of use it in some way. This is not what we are saying. We are saying that you are the higher self. Literally, you are the higher self. You are not the physical vehicle. You are not the mind. You are not the personality. You are not those things. You are very literally the higher self. And so when you live your life, trust more in your impulse to be spontaneous, because the higher self, which is who you are, it is literally who you are. You are the higher self, and you are downloading, real-time streaming into the moment through the physical vehicle. The physical vehicle is like the Iron Man suit, and you are the entity within the suit, and your mind is like Jarvis, the inherent artificial intelligence of the suit. When Iron Man is within the suit, he does not acquiesce to the voice to believe that he is Jarvis, that the artificial intelligence is him. He understands that it is not him, that it is instead a tool which exists for the facilitation of his desires. In a very similar way, this is metaphoric of your relationship with your body. It is the suit, and with your mind, it is the artificial intelligence inherent to the suit. You are the higher self. You are the presence behind the virtual reality, looking through the virtual reality mask. This is who you are. And so, understand that the higher self has a much more expanded vision of what is occurring. The higher self can see your past, can see your future, can see your present simultaneously. And therefore, the higher self, and when we say you, when we say it can see your past, can see your future, can see your present, we mean this from this limited false identity that you are the physical vehicle. If for a moment we say that you are the physical vehicle, then from the perspective of the higher self can see your past, see your future, see your present simultaneously. And so when the higher self streams into the body for you to emanate spontaneously, it is offering to the moment as your presence something which is highly calibrated to the moment you're in, because the higher self has access to much more information than the mind does. And so while you will have the impulse to spontaneously say or express or do or be in the moment, which you feel is inappropriate, uncalibrated, will cause embarrassment, shame. And so you change it, you distort it, and then emanate something which is inauthentic, which is not spontaneous, which is limited, a limited product of the limited mind, of the limited intellect. But the higher self is aware of so much more than the mind is. And therefore, the higher self has a infinitely greater capacity to be calibrated perfectly to the moment you're in. Even when, from the perspective of the mind, it seems like your impulse for spontaneity is something which is too wacky, it's too crazy, it doesn't make sense. But you are doing it from the limited perspective of the moment you're in and the past that you have lived, with no awareness of the future yet to arrive. And so you only have part of the picture. And then your awareness in the present moment and of the past is then a misconstrued collection of information, because when you went through the past and when you are in the present, the experiences have been filtered through the erroneous layers of belief of the mind. You have lived your past inauthentically. You live the moment inauthentically because you are still invested in identity in the physical vehicle. And this misidentification, this misconceptualization of who you truly are is creating a distortion. And so even though you do not have awareness of the future, yes, you have awareness of present and the past, it is an awareness which is not accurate, which is distorted, which is lacking in authenticity. And so the point of this is, trust yourself. Trust your urge to be spontaneous. Trust the instantaneous impulse you have to say something, to be a certain way, to do a certain thing. Be more trusting of that. Be more willing to allow yourself to be openly expressive. Trust that even when it may feel like it is not calibrated to the moment, that it is. Because from your limited perspective, if you are still identified as the mind, with your limited data, and that data having been processed in a way which is depleting in authenticity and understanding, that the judgments you are making of why you should not say the thing that you have the impulse to say, or do the thing that you have the impulse to do, or be the way you have the impulse to be, are the result of a limited intellect that has far less information than the source which is providing you with the impulse of spontaneity. And so, the more and more that you are able to do this, then you will find the more and more that you become interesting to others, that you become unique, that you become someone that others feel understands them, connects with them, touches them, makes them feel that they have importance in your eyes, that they are relevant. Increasingly so, you will become a being which is unique, eclectic, fascinating, and more, because you will be more and more reflective of your higher self, if you are willing and have the courage to be more spontaneous and to trust the feed. Trust that the download feed which is offered to you for spontaneous emanation into the moment is perfectly calibrated to the moment. And by trusting it, you will become a being of greater presence. Your presence will be felt, will be impactful, will be powerful, even in your silence, even in your stoicism. There will be a palpable, powerful quality to your presence, because you will be authentic. And authenticity is the embodiment of the vehicle with the higher self. So over the journey of this lifetime, if you have made the decision that you wish to awaken, to transcend what you have believed yourself to be, such that you become realized that you are in fact the infinite being which is invulnerable, which is immortal, then this implies that there will be an increasing diminishment in your identity that you are the physical vehicle. It will be a death of this identity to give way to the true essence of who you truly are. It will be the petals of the flower folding back, clearing away the opaqueness, leaving a translucency through which there will be the capacity to instantaneously emanate into the moment at all times as the true being you are, the higher self. So, discover who you are. Contemplate your infinity. Discover your extra dimensionality. And trust the download enough that you allow yourself to be expressive of who you truly are in the moment through the gift of spontaneity. Be brave enough to be who you are. Don't stifle. Allow. Trust. And be. Thank you. We love you. And we know that who you truly are, the highest self being, is an awakened master, is a loving, encapsulation of the love and beauty of the One, a beacon of pure goodness and radiant light. We love you as you are now on this journey, and we love who you shall inevitably discover that you are. Thank you.